Saddam Hussein and his sons must leave Iraq within 48 hours. Their refusal to do so will result in military conflict.
The Silent Thief and the $1 billion Heist. Imagine waking up to an alert that defies logic. Nearly $1 billion has vanished overnight. Not through a digital hack, not through a complex corporate scheme. This was cold, hard cash, stolen from the national reserves of an entire sovereign country. There were no alarms, no masks, and no dramatic shootouts in the lobby. It took 3 trucks, a terrifyingly simple piece of paper, a handwritten note, and the presence of one man. This is the story of the largest bank robbery ever recorded. A crime so audacious, so politically explosive, and so deeply tied to the chaos of war that it almost defies belief. And here is the ultimate unsolved mystery. Even today, more than 2 decades later, a staggering $350 million of that cash remains missing without a trace. To understand the heist, you must first understand the moment. The date is March 18, 2003. Baghdad is a city on the edge of a cliff. The international community had fled. Diplomats were gone. Everyone was anticipating the shock and awe air campaign set to begin the next day. Saddam Hussein, the dictator, knew a fundamental truth. War doesn't just destroy nations, it freezes them. Banks shut down. Communication networks collapse. Access to liquid funds becomes nearly impossible. For a dictator whose power depended heavily on the ability to move cash and buy loyalty, this impending freeze was an existential catastrophe.
More wars of aggression against your neighbors. No more poison factories. No more executions of dissidents. No more torture chambers and rape rooms. The tyrant will soon be gone. The day of your liberation is near.
He faced a critical deadline. He needed money, much money, perhaps even $1 billion for survival. He authorized one of the boldest operations in the history of modern financial crime. The man chosen to execute this final contingency plan was not the flamboyant Uday, known for his volatile behavior and extravagance, the wild card. It was Qusay Hussein. Qusay was the ace. He was cold, calculating, and efficient, specifically groomed to be the true successor. This choice prioritized disciplined operational competence and reliability over the risk introduced by Uday's instability. By 2000, Qusay was the undisputed heir apparent to the Ba'athist regime. His power was derived from his institutional mastery, controlling the complex, labyrinthine network of intelligence and security agencies, collectively referred to as the Mukhabarat structure. This system was deliberately designed to permeate every aspect of Iraqi life, ensuring Saddam's total control. Qusay's key roles included Director of the Iraqi Special Security Organization, SSO. Serving from 1992 to 2001, the SSO, Al-Am al-Khas, was the most powerful security agency, responsible for the supreme protection of the president, conducting counter-coup activities, and overseeing internal surveillance. honorable supervisor of the Republican Guard. From 1991 to 2003, Qusay had effective command oversight of Iraq's elite military divisions and the Special Republican Guard. This unparalleled concentration of authority, controlling both the primary counter-coup intelligence arm, SSO, and the elite military strike force, was a necessary prerequisite for a successor intended to survive internal military rivalry. Commander of the Fedayeen Saddam paramilitary, Qusay assumed command of this fiercely loyalist militia from 1997 to 2003 after Uday was deemed unstable. The Fedayeen Saddam, whose name means Saddam's Men of Sacrifice, specialized in light infantry and guerrilla tactics and were known for their fanatic resistance during the 2003 invasion.
Qusay's institutional mastery came at a terrifying human cost. His functional role was that of the administrator of state-sanctioned violence. While serving as deputy chairman of the Special Security Committee of the Iraqi National Security Council, he presided over a network of spies and informers. He was the individual who likely authorized torture, interrogation, jailing, and execution of thousands of political prisoners and their families. This was not arbitrary cruelty, but rather a standard bureaucratic policy of the Ba'athist state. Iraqi opposition groups also accused Qusay of ordering the mass execution of thousands of prison inmates in 1998, reportedly to make room for new prisoners in crowded jails. Furthermore, Qusay was linked to directing the brutal suppression of the Shiite uprising in southern Iraq after the 1991 Gulf War. Loyal forces responded to this challenge with atrocities on a predictably massive scale. Troops fired indiscriminately into residential areas, executed young people on the streets and in hospitals, and rounded up suspects en masse. Qusay also masterminded the destruction of the southern marshes, ending a centuries-old way of life for the marsh Arabs, in what outsiders believed was retribution for their participation in the revolt. The fate of thousands of Kurds and Shia seized during the suppression remains unknown 1 year later. For the perfect heist, Qusay needed a contingency plan. He didn't need a strategy for victory. He needed a strategy for survival. And survival required money, much money, maybe even $1 billion. To imagine this amount, just compare it with the fifth, fourth, third, or the second biggest robberess of all the time. The Banco Central burglary, stolen $71.6 million. The Securitas Depot robbery, stolen $83 million. The Knightsbridge security deposit robbery, $97 million. The Dar es Salaam bank heist, stolen $282 million. And the biggest bank heist in the history, the Central Bank of Iraq heist. $920 million in US currency and $100 million in euros. But how? With war hours away, Qusay was deployed. The location, the Central Bank of Iraq in Baghdad. The time, approximately 4 a.m. on March 18, 2003. A convoy consisting of 3 large semi-trucks rolled quietly to the gates. Qusay Hussein led the convoy, accompanied by Saddam's presidential secretary, Abd Hamid Mahmoud al-Tikriti, the ace of diamonds on the coalition's most wanted cards. Qusay walked into the bank lobby, not with a weapon, but with a simple piece of paper, a handwritten note from Saddam. The instruction was blunt: withdraw the necessary funds immediately. The scale of the request was unprecedented: $920 million in physical U.S. cash and the equivalent of $100 million in euros. This staggering sum represented roughly a full quarter of the country's currency reserves. Bank officials, terrified of the head of the Special Security Organization, had absolutely no power to deny or delay the order.
Followed and executed the orders. You have received orders from President of Iraq. You have to operate as an officer.
For the next 5 hours, pallets of cash were frantically loaded into the trucks. The money, 10 tons of it, vanished before dawn. The strangest detail of this crime is the legal paradox. We call it a robbery, but was it? According to some legal experts who studied the case, the forced withdrawal may not have actually been illegal. As an absolute dictator, Saddam Hussein had personal, direct control over every aspect of the country's governance, including the central bank and other economic institutions. The largest bank robbery in history was, therefore, a dictator exploiting total control. What were the motives for this final act of financial desperation? The golden parachute. American intelligence initially believed the cash was intended to fund a luxurious exile for Saddam. U.S. Army Special Forces near Iraq's border with Syria reportedly saw trucks matching the description crossing over the border. Funding the resistance. Many believed Qusay was securing fuel for a long, bloody guerrilla war against the American occupation, where cash is vital for buying weapons and loyalty. Protecting the inner circle. The money may have been a severance package to fund the flight of key regime loyalists, family members, and business networks overseas. Personal property. Some experts argue Saddam simply preserved what he viewed as his own personal funds before the invaders arrived. As the war began, the coalition recognized Qusay's critical strategic importance. He and his brother Uday were placed immediately beneath Saddam Hussein on the personality identification playing cards, developed by the U.S. Defense Intelligence Agency to help troops identify the regime's most wanted members. Saddam Hussein was the ace of spades. Qusay Hussein was designated the ace of clubs. Uday Hussein was the ace of hearts. The capture of the brothers was incentivized by a massive combined $30 million reward. Weeks after the invasion, the mystery of the missing funds seemed solved. U.S. forces secured one of Uday Hussein's palaces in Baghdad, and discovered $650 million in stacks of brand new $100 bills. The cash was nearly pristine, barely touched since it left the central bank. The discovery confirmed the scale of the heist, but it also revealed a darker truth about the war effort. Some U.S. soldiers tasked with securing the money began stealing from the massive fortune themselves. 35 American soldiers were eventually prosecuted in connection with this significant incident of wartime corruption. But even after accounting for the recovered funds, the investigators faced a terrifying calculation. The withdrawal was for nearly $1 billion. They had found $650 million. $350 million was still missing. The only person who knew the money's final destination was Qusay Hussein. Qusay Hussein, the ace of clubs, was a ghost. But the enormous reward finally broke the silence. On the night of July 21, 2003, Nawaf al-Zaidan, a businessman sheltering the brothers, left his mansion in the northern Al-Falah suburb of Mosul and went to a nearby U.S. coalition base. He passed a lie detector test, confirming he had the exact locations and detailed descriptions of Qusay and Uday. On the morning of July 22, 2003, approximately 240 U.S. soldiers, including 8 Special Forces operatives from Task Force 121 and 40 infantrymen from the 101st Airborne Division, surrounded the safe house. The commander gave an Arabic announcement via bullhorn, calling for peaceful surrender. The response was immediate: a hail of bullets. The initial Special Forces entry team breached the door, but immediately came under heavy gunfire from the second floor, where Qusay and Uday had barricaded themselves. The engagement was fierce. 4 American soldiers were wounded in the initial attempts to enter the building. The American forces called for massive backup. What followed was a 6-hour gun battle. The U.S. troops used overwhelming firepower, including Mk-19 grenade launchers and Humvee-mounted .50 caliber machine guns. Helicopters, including Kiowa OH-58D gunships, arrived and began firing rockets at the house. Colonel Joe Anderson ultimately made the decisive move, ordering the firing of 12 BGM-71 TOW anti-tank missiles directly into the building. The resulting explosions reduced much of the safe house to rubble. When the soldiers finally entered the ruined structure, Qusay and Uday were found dead. Qusay, who had been directing the defense alongside his brother, fought to the very end. But the last defender was Qusay's son, 14-year-old Mustafa Hussein. Taking cover in a bedroom, the boy opened fire on the advancing soldiers with an AK-47, becoming the last fatality in the siege. The death of Saddam's heir apparent, Qusay, and his grandson Mustafa definitively eliminated the 3-generational dynastic continuity. When the soldiers searched the rubble, they found weapons and debris. They found death, but there was no money.
This will prove to the Iraqi people that at least these 2 members of the regime will not be coming back into power, which is what we've stated over.
The handling of the bodies became a massive political controversy. Both brothers had grown long beards to avoid detection. The American command, knowing the Iraqi public would be skeptical, released photographs of the corpses after military morticians reconstructed their faces and shaved their beards. This preparation using cosmetic putty and shaving, infuriated the family, as Muslim tradition calls for bodies not to be embalmed or retouched and to be buried as soon as possible. The U.S. argued it was necessary to combat rumors that the brothers were still alive and bring closure. Saddam Hussein himself recorded a tape praising their deaths as an act of faith, saying, "Had Saddam Hussein had 100 children other than Uday and Qusay, Saddam Hussein would have sacrificed them on the same path." The bodies were eventually laid to rest on August 2, 2003, in a dusty cemetery in Al-Aujah near Tikrit, guarded by American troops.
Tell them to get back. They need to get back.
The successful elimination of Qusay and Uday was intended to demoralize the resistance. Yet, their deaths did not significantly diminish the ongoing insurgency in Iraq. This suggested that Qusay's centralized control structure failed to transition into a cohesive, decentralized resistance network. And the biggest secret Qusay carried, the location of the $350 million, died with him. Global investigators have been unable to trace the money. Where did the money go? The mystery remains perfect. The Safe House Network. Qusay may have dispersed the cash across dozens of secret Ba'ath Party locations and bunkers that the U.S. military never fully searched. Smuggled out. Cash could have easily been transported across porous borders into Syria or Jordan by high-ranking Ba'ath officials who fled the country. Fuel for the fire. The money may have done exactly what some suspected, financed the insurgency, and been spent, bill by bill, on bullets and bombs used by Ba'ath loyalists fighting U.S. forces for years. Buried treasure. Some believe the cash could still be sitting beneath the sands of Iraq, hidden in abandoned palaces, underground bunkers, or sealed vaults. The sheer scale of Qusay Hussein's operation dwarfs all conventional crimes. The $920 million Central Bank of Iraq robbery was far greater than the Dar es Salaam bank heist, $282 million, the Knightsbridge security deposit robbery, $97 million, or the Dunbar armored robbery, $18.9 million. Qusay Hussein's life offers a brutal lesson in power and institutionalized terror. Lesson 1. Absolute power makes absolute theft possible. A dictator needs only a handwritten note, blurring the line between theft, government action, and wartime strategy. Lesson 2. War is the greatest opportunity for corruption. When accountability collapses, corruption can infect even the highest levels, leading to the prosecution of 35 American soldiers for stealing the recovered funds. Lesson 3. Money can survive chaos longer than regimes. Saddam's government fell in mere weeks. His sons died violently, but $350 million simply vanished. The story of the silent thief is still unfinished. No agency has been able to trace the missing money. It is a perfect disappearance. $350 million missing, untouched, unsolved.